welcome everybody. My name is Mary Lee Burnett. I am back again with your astro lesson for the week of February 3rd, 2025. And this week we have big news from the biggest planet out there in our solar system, Jupiter, who is finally stationing to go direct. And I promise you guys are going to notice the difference. So that is a big thing to look forward to. Of course, if you click on that subscribe button below, then you will always be up to date on the most important activity that's going on in the zodiac as I post every single day. And then astro lessons and tarot card readings for all signs is each week as well. And make sure you go out to my website, MaryLeeBurnett.com, because out there I have all of my written content for you. I also do hypnosis, and so I have a great series out there on hypnosis for the signs. It's a way for you to connect energetically with your energy that's most important to you at this time. So there's a recording for all 12 zodiac signs. And of course, there's other personal self-improvement, I guess I would call them, categories that you can listen to and then decide if you want to come work with me on something more specific to your life and your needs. Well, with that, let's just jump right in this week. Again, if you need anything else from me, go out to my website, MaryLeeBurnett.com. But we're going to break down each day this week. I'm going to focus in on the most important energies. And it's important also to note that some of these things can show up a couple days before. They might show up a couple days after. It really just depends on how sensitive the energy is to you and how it's connecting to your natal planets as well. So, as I mentioned at the top of this broadcast, we would be discussing Jupiter stationing to go direct. And so that happens in the afternoon on February 4th. But as we start off on February 3rd, we are seeing that Jupiter's still retrograde and at 11. And I think this is so important because Jupiter's retrograding at 11 degrees in the sign of Gemini, which also looks like an 11. And speaking to the sign's ruler, which is Mercury over here. And so Mercury in the sign of Aquarius. So we have an important amount of information and energy that supports communication. It could support travel. It is information. So today, on Monday, could be the moment where you realize what all the work has been about for the past several months since last year that we had Jupiter going retrograde in whatever house this is for you. And you've maybe felt stalled there, not clear about something, some area in your life because Jupiter's caused you to really slow down and try to decide what it is that you want. Help you learn, right? Gemini is the energy of teaching and information and communication and transportation and the internet, right? All modes of transportation of information come up. So there's something related to the past and the work that you've been doing since last year that could come to your attention today. So pay close attention to conversations even around you. Check your mail, check the email, and just be ready for maybe some big news or some big announcements for the collective. All right. The other thing that we're going to see as we start off the week is we're building back again to this Chiron and Aries square to Mars in Cancer. So another planet that feels like it's been retrograde forever. And we still have several weeks to go. So hang in there. We will get through this. Mars retrogrades are always tough. Mars retrograde in a sign that it does not enjoy is an even tougher retrograde. So we've been feeling this for a while now. And we have until February 23rd before this is going to finally move forward. But there's this long discussion as Mars makes its way back to 17 degrees is where it started its retrograde. And because of that, it's going to sit this red line, this square with Chiron, which can be painful. It can be what motivates you to make a big change. It could be what motivates you to change the way you resolve your hurt feelings. It could be an argument where feelings were hurt in the past that comes up for resolution. There's so many different ways that this can show up, but Chiron is our inner wounds. Cancer, of course, has to do with feelings, emotions, how we care and nurture for ourselves and others. And of course, Mars in retrograde is making us really think about what we feel, which Mars doesn't care. Mars just wants to attack things. And some of you may be feeling like you've been under attack for quite some time. And it is going to continue, as I mentioned, until we get to the end of February. And these two in this conversation, when they first met, it was Chiron that was retrograde, our pain from the past. And then now it's Mars in Cancer and our feelings, our emotions from the past. So there's still a conflict. There's still a change that's needed, but it's not an overnight change. And it's one that is going to take time to completely and fully unfold for you. But start tuning in this week because, as I mentioned, with Jupiter and Mercury also speaking in harmony to one another, the information, the ideas may suddenly just pop for you so that you get a better understanding of what all this work has been about. All right. Also on Monday, you're going to see here this story of the North Node and Neptune. So they are going to speak together jointly all week long. And they'll get to a point where they're exact. And then finally, Neptune's going to move on, hand the baton to the North Node. And the North Node will now know what lessons it needs to focus on with you, with us, with the collective, based on what Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, has decided, right? So that is an important handoff that happens, and you may experience some kind of a handoff, maybe a change in leadership. Depends again on what house this is showing up for you, where you see a shift of some kind. And as they're speaking, they're still speaking in harmony with Venus. This happened over the weekend prior to me recording this session. And Venus is love and beauty and happy in the sign of Pisces. And she's also what we call pre-shadow. So you're getting a preview of what your work will be. So isn't that timely that we have work to do with the North Node's lessons? And Venus is going to go retrograde here, but not until March 1st. So we have this extended period of time that began earlier last week where we're starting to figure out what it is that we love, what do we believe in, what do we think is beauty, what's the definition of beauty in our lives, and what role does faith play, right? There's so many layers to this. And again, so what's been showing up for you is hopefully giving you some clues to what that will be about once Venus goes retrograde. Now, the overarching theme of this is that this week, Venus leaves Pisces and then heads into Aries. So what you love has to do with you, your individual self, your choices. And we're going to get a glimpse of that, of doing what we love, understanding truly what we love, maybe who we love. And all until Venus hits the point where she'll retrograde on March 1st. And it's going to be this degree is so important because the eclipse is going to activate it. Mercury retrograde is going to activate it. So this benefic planet of Venus is doing some major work for us as a collective and for us as individuals. And there's some themes that could repeat from the last time Venus was here, which was in the year 2017. So you can think back on that. And if you don't want to repeat whatever was going on when I say that year and you go, oh God, not 2017, then know that you can choose differently. And that's the whole point of the cycles and making different choices. So we're going to see the shift of Venus leaving Pisces and heading into Aries. And you might feel a shift in the energy as well, because Aries is more about your individual self and resources compared to Pisces energy, which is more about our emotional self and what we create through art, through beauty, through connection. All right, so just like that, we're kicking off a really strong week. So let's move ahead to Tuesday. All right, on Tuesday, as I mentioned, now we have Venus in Aries. And as I mentioned, you're going to want to start paying attention as Venus moves forward slowly here until March 1st. What do I love? What do I want? What do I desire? What am I passionate about? And what am I doing about it? Because when Venus does go retrograde on March 1st, you're going to have to start doing the work to get what you want. And then as the planet moves back into the sign of Pisces, that's where you're going to have to finish some things up, tie up some loose ends before you truly can get what it is that you love and desire. And then the eclipse is going to help in March remove any blocks that are keeping you from getting what you love and desire. It's a really, really intriguing time energetically, astrologically, when you have two personal planets and then, of course, an eclipse all in this 9-10 degree Aries point. So if you have personal planets that are going to get activated by these retrogrades and the eclipses, get ready for big sweeping changes coming to your life. I guarantee you it will not be the same as it is right now. All right, so that is the big shifts on Tuesday. And as I mentioned, we're just going to keep watching, right? This handoff, this transfer of power between Neptune and the North Node. And then Neptune's going to spend quite a while at 29 degrees before it moves for the first time in our lifetimes into the sign of Aries. There will be major shifts and changes. So the other thing I really want you to pay attention to is today. What feels different when you see Venus moving into the sign of Aries? Because Venus and Neptune energy is similar, right? Except that, of course, Neptune is god of the sea, and Venus is a goddess, right? So there is differences. And Venus's beauty is above the surface. Neptune's is below, right? So, but there's some similarities with the energy of Aries that both will share from an emotional perspective. And so again, just start tuning in and seeing what subtle shifts are showing up for you. And then you'll notice, the other benefic planet here, Jupiter, has moved to station to go direct. So I personally cannot wait for this to be happening. So now we have Jupiter stationing to go direct, still having good conversations with Mercury. And just last week, we had some shocking events happen at the same time that Uranus was stationing to go direct. So again, when planets change directions, especially bigger ones that affect the collective, then we can see shocking things that happen and affect the collective. So that's a very sad thing that happened for us here with that accident with the planes and the losses of life. It's heartbreaking. So Jupiter is a benefic planet, though. So as it moves forward, the lessons could surprise us still, because Jupiter still is a teacher. But again, as a benefic teacher compared to Saturn, which just wants you to learn the lesson the hard way, that's not Jupiter's goal. Jupiter's goal is to help you grow and expand. But sometimes we're not tuning in or paying attention. So we have some political leaders out there with some very strong Gemini energy. So it'll be interesting to see, once Jupiter's moving forward, how this will affect them. And I'll just tell you, there's a few of them that were running for president last year. So let's see what shakes up and shakes out as the result of Jupiter moving forward with the information we need for things to be fair and balanced and just. Okay. I I think that is all I'm going to bring up on Tuesday. So let's move forward to Wednesday. All right. I'm not going to talk about this all the time, but I'm just going to show you these are just closer and closer together. So the node, the north node, where we're heading, the south node, what we're letting go of. So the south node, of course, is opposing Neptune. So it's very similar, of course, to the north node opposing the south node because it's in the sign of Pisces. So it's almost like poor little south node down there is trying to hold everything in place while all of this energy keeps hitting and pushing against that south node. So we're really trying to understand, how do we let go of control? How do we have just enough control so that we have good, healthy boundaries, but we're not putting up brick walls, right? So that we're completely isolating ourselves either. It is a delicate balancing situation that we're trying to understand as we work through this new 18-month, right, cycle of the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. But man, Virgo's got to really, really try to balance things out with only the South Node to help, while all these heavy hitters and all this repetition of back and forth energy is going to be hitting these degrees of Pisces. Really fascinating times. So we'll continue to monitor this and see what unfolds. All right, that is Wednesday. And let's move ahead to Thursday. So as we look at Thursday, Pluto now in Aquarius is starting to show us new experiences, because this now is the first time that we've seen Pluto get past, I think it was 2 degrees 6 minutes, where it got to last year and then retrograded. Now this energy, until Pluto moves into its retrograde, and it's going to get into 3 degrees. These, again, Pluto moves very slowly because the work is deep, it's psychological, it's hidden, it's beneath the surface. And whenever there is work going on, such as Pluto's speaking with Venus, well, then the Pluto work gets more above the surface so that we can feel it. So could there be a woman who's rising to power in some way, right? Venus in Aries, a woman leader, working in harmony with this other hidden supporter. It's a possibility. So, and then wherever this connection is happening in your own chart, right? You have this partner, this hidden power that is working with you somewhere, right? You individual Aries energy. So this is kind of a quick hit, right? Because Venus moves quickly, but Venus will also come back here during the retrograde. So that means this lesson is just step 1. So I would say use your power wisely. Be careful about starting relationships because they could easily turn obsessive. So just pay attention. I'm just going to keep saying it. Pay attention, journal, pay attention to your insights, but this will be something is going to come back to be looked at again. So whatever shows up right now, trust that you haven't seen the whole picture quite yet, but you will in March see more of it. And then even later, once Venus starts moving ahead, and then Pluto's slowing it down to go retrograde. So this is maybe an interesting love story that's unfolding for the collective to be watching and paying attention to. Also on Thursday, we're going to see Saturn moving ahead, just moving right along through this Pisces energy, is speaking in harmony with Mars in Cancer. So the thing when Saturn and Mars work in harmony together, and I've told this story 1,000 times, it's like knowing exactly the right amount of gas and the right amount of clutch, right, in order to move something forward. But you're not moving it forward quickly because of the fact that Mars is still retrograde, but there's a plan about how to deal with the past, maybe, that could come through to you today. There could be a mentor, Saturn, that crosses your path to help you. And again, whatever area you have this Mars retrograde happening for you. So this person, for instance, is going to interact with a mentor of some kind in a official role, maybe in their actual company that they work for. And there's something that this person wants and desires, and they are reflecting on maybe mistakes made in the past that didn't allow it to come to be, because of course we have the square still going on with Chiron. And here comes Saturn in to say, hey, I have a plan. You want to achieve success? Here's the steps you need to take. And that's what we need to do. Whatever Saturn gives you as far as rules, regulations, listen. Now, we also might hear some rules and regulations being handed out against families. So we'll wait and see what that shows up on Thursday to be. All right. I think that's all my Thursdays. Yes. And then it is May 4th. May the 4th be with you, is when Pluto is going to start its retrograde. So again, this event involving this Venus meeting is one to pay attention to. All right. More to come on that. Then we have Friday. Hello, Friday. Still Venus talking with Pluto. That hasn't changed. It's just continuing in intensity. We still have Jupiter sitting here getting ready to move forward, and we still have Mars speaking with Saturn. And now you'll notice the handoff has happened. So the South Node, North Node connection has just slipped past Neptune, and Neptune will start moving forward as the nodes continue their backward movement through the sign. So that, whatever the handoff is, maybe it has something to do with a Venus conversation. I'm just saying, we have some really intriguing things happening. Also, just for fun, we have Mars retrograde in conjunct to the Sun and Mercury, which is about to be Cazimi tomorrow, which is, the time where the planets that get close to the Sun go through a rebirth process, right? This is their Phoenix rising moment. So something could need to be totally torn down so that it can be rebuilt again. And again, this depends on where you have this happening in your chart. But the weird thing is the connection back to Mars is this fresh start, this restart could come out of nowhere and really be a bit unsettling. So I'm just going to strongly encourage you all to be really careful with travel over this particular weekend, because again, Mercury is travel. We just saw Mercury with Pluto while Uranus was stationing to go direct, create a horrific accident. This is that same kind of energy again. This could be more associated with women, families. So just again, we could have aha moments that help us, but this awkward energy from Mars is like, when I said before, they're just right amount of gas and clutch to use. You don't. In this angle, this, you're speeding up, you're slowing down. You can't quite figure out how to move whatever this is forward in an easy way. So pay attention to the Saturn energy that could help kind of hold this all together. There's an older mentor that's trying to calm some of the chaos potentially in your life. Okay, that is Friday. And then we're going to move ahead to Saturday. And Saturday, the biggest news again still is that Mars with Saturn, which Saturn rules Saturday. So on Saturdays, you should do things like wear red. You should have a list of things that you want to complete. You should tune in with this Saturn energy on Saturday morning and say, please help me to complete my activities in a methodical way. Give me a plan. The planets are energy. You should tune in and connect to them and ask for instruction. And boy, will Saturn give you the instructions. And then you've got Mars there helping you be motivated. So you could really do some powerful cleaning on Saturday, February 8th, if that's your thing. And then, as I mentioned, we're still seeing this awkward energy between the Sun and Mercury and Mars. So none of that is really changing. So let's take a look at the last day of the week, which is Sunday, and that is where you will see the actual Mercury Cazimi moment. These two are exactly connected. And interestingly enough, as they are connected, as Mercury goes through its rebirth process, the Moon is in its home sign, trying to give a little instruction to Mars on how it should handle itself for the next month before the Moon can return again. And so it's almost like these two, the Moon and Saturn, are trying to team up to straighten Mars out a little bit, if at all possible. Okay. I have a little side joke about that, but I'm not going to go there because I'm sure I'll just make some people cranky. But certain people have some very interesting Mars energy in their chart. And so when you do have strong Mars energy in your chart and Mars is retrograde, your Mars energy behaves very poorly. Let's just leave it at that. So again, can't wait till February 23rd. Start moving some things forward. All right. That energy, just so you know, I mentioned it a bit earlier, but with the Cazimi energy, the conjunction between Mercury and the Sun, it is, again, squaring with Uranus. So over these next few days and into next week, but particularly on Sunday, this could be very explosive. It could be like volcano explosive. It could be earthquakes, right? Because Uranus is in an earth sign, and as it makes a square, which is a 90-degree angle back here with Mercury and the Sun, there's tension like tectonic plates pushing against one another. So again, just be careful, be aware of your surroundings. Don't go doing things by yourself. It's just a weekend where it's best to just kind of chill and be at home and relax and don't do anything risky. Now, the only good thing about squares is, like, if you're stuck in some really bad habit, or like you love food, unhealthy food, and you're like, I have got to change this once and for all, then you tune into this and it's like, boom, overnight changes. You can channel this into making effective changes, but there will be some serious disruptions going on throughout this weekend and then partly into next week. So just be careful. Just be careful. All right, let me move us into next week, and so that you can just see how, again, now this, again, Mercury's exact on Monday. So whatever's happening, travel, drive very carefully, protect yourself. Defensive driving, all of that is going to be really important. So we see that on Monday, and then we'll see the Sun do the same thing on Tuesday. So this is some pretty volatile days of energy. And then we're starting to see Mars get back to the 17-degree mark, which is the last degree that it's going to review before it can move forward. So there's a lot of slowing down, because the thing about when Mars is going to slow down and go retrograde, it's going to slow down. You're like, please, it can't slow down anymore. It can. And then as it speeds up to go ahead, it's going to be a little chaotic there as well. All right. So the early part of next week, I do, like I said, little cautious and concerned for the volatility of what's going to happen at this time. So just be very careful. And then on the 12th is when we'll have the full moon in Leo. So we'll come back next week. I'll do the breakdown for this very, very interesting full moon in Leo. There's so much. But if you want to know ahead of time, instead of waiting until next week, go check out the written article that I have already out there for the full moon. And then you'll get some idea of what you might expect. And because it is such kind of a crazy volatile week, again, the full moon can bring like a big crescendo, a big ending, dramatic, right? We're talking Leo. Yeah. That could be a very big dramatic ending that you won't want to miss, that's for sure. But go out to my website, marileyburnett.com, check out the article and see what could be happening for your sign, or book a session with me. I have lots of different offers out there and really affordable readings where we can just focus in on like the new moons and the full moons. And again, all the articles are out there for February, March, and probably by the time this is posted, I should have April's out there as well. So I'm trying to get as much of a forward look as I can, because it's just such an intense energy of change this year. So let me know how else I can help you. I appreciate you tuning in, and your feedback is always appreciated. Of course, so are your comments and your likes, and trying to grow my small but mighty channel by sharing it with your friends. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk again next week. Be sure and check out your weekly tarot card messages as well. Those, along with this astro lesson, are going to give you the big picture. Thanks again for tuning in. Talk to you next week.